Ray Smith was born on a hot July day, the 29th, in 1999, into the cozy and warm family of Mary and Joan Smith. Their house, filled with laughter and love, became for Ray a real fortress. He had a brother and a sister, Jessica and Kyle. Jessica, the older sister, has always been an example and a source of inspiration for Ray, and Kyle, the younger brother, often sought his protection and advice. Since childhood, Ray has stood out among his peers. His charisma and sociability attracted the attention of others. He was the kind of guy who always found a way to lighten the mood, even on the grayest and most boring days. His smile was so infectious that people couldn't help but smile back. Ray loved cars. He could sit in the garage for hours, pretending to be a great racer. His passion for nature was no less intense. Every summer, the family went camping, where Ray felt like a fish in water. He knew all the paths, could find the most nooks and crannies, and was always ready to help with tents and a campfire. Animals were another of his passions. Smith's house has always been home to cats, dogs, and even a few birds. Ray loved taking care of them, feeding them, and playing with them. He could sit with the dog for hours, teaching commands. But the most important thing is that Ray has always had 3 unchanging traditions. First of all, he wore stupid colored socks. Mom said it was probably his personal good luck charm. Secondly, Ray always ate a small cake with cookies on his birthday every year. It was his favorite treat, and he never missed this ritual. And finally, Swedish sweets. Ray loved them. Since childhood, he believed that they gave him energy and a good mood for the whole day. Lisa, Ray's mom, has always been proud of her son. She said that Ray had the best smile in the world and that he got away with everything. Ray was really lucky. He loved music and played all the instruments he could find. His house was always filled with the sounds of guitar, piano, and violin. He loved hugging his mom, and Lisa always felt the happiest when he came home. Ray's personal life was full of bright moments and unforgettable events. At school, he met his first love, a girl named Emily. They spent all their free time together, walking in the park, going to the movies and concerts. Ray was sure that this was true love, and he was preparing to propose to Emily. But fate decreed otherwise. One day, when they were on a picnic, Ray felt unwell. Doctors diagnosed him with a serious illness, and he had to spend several months in the hospital. This test was a real lesson for Ray. He realized that life is short and you need to appreciate every moment. After his recovery, Ray returned to his normal life, but now he was more conscious and responsible. He continued to love music and cars, but now his priorities had changed. Ray decided to dedicate his life to helping other people. He became a volunteer at a local hospital where he worked with children and organized charity events to raise funds for the treatment of sick animals. Ray's personal life has also undergone changes. The previous relationship ended like an autumn leaf leaving a tree. Ray's first love was gone. He met a girl named Sarah, who became his support. They had been together for several years and were planning to get married. Ray was happy that he had found his soulmate and believed that there would be many happy moments ahead of them. Ray Smith wasn't just a guy with a $1 million smile. He was a man with a big heart who was always ready to help and make the world a better place. His story is a story about how important it is to appreciate every moment of life and not be afraid to meet your dreams. Ray stood on the threshold of his small but cozy apartment, where every piece of furniture seemed familiar and comforting. Despite having to deal with the effects of COVID-19, this semester at Texas State University had become a real test of strength for him. Studying, new acquaintances, endless lectures, and laboratory work, all this took a lot out of him. But now that the first semester was over, Ray was looking forward to returning home to Missouri City, Texas. He knew that a warm and loving family was waiting for him there: mom, dad, brother, and sister. Ray missed their smiles, the family dinners when they all gathered around the table, discussing the day and making plans for the future. He was especially looking forward to meeting his sister, who had always been a source of joy and inspiration to him. After packing his few belongings in an old but reliable Nissan, Ray left the apartment around 10:55 p.m. on December 13th. He felt his heart fill with warmth at the thought of home. Turning on the radio, he found his favorite station, which played old rock hits that always lifted his mood. Ray turned on the stove in the car to keep warm on a cool December evening, and, leaning back in the seat, closed his eyes, imagining how he would again be sitting by the fireplace, wrapped in a blanket, and listening to the crackle of firewood. There was a long way ahead of him, but Ray was determined to get home as soon as possible. He knew that not only the winter holidays were ahead of him, but also a lot of plans for the future. He dreamed of finishing his studies and finding a job to be closer to his family and be able to help them. Ray believed that there were many bright moments ahead of him, and with this thought in mind, he confidently drove towards his home. Ray sat behind the wheel of his car as the road took him further and further away, and soon Highway 80 disappeared under a massive interstate highway. At 11:24, Ray opened a popular app to send messages to friends. When it was 12:30 a.m. on December 14th, Ray disappeared. His car, left on the road, looked like it had been abandoned. The headlights were on, the keys were still in the ignition. The police assumed it was a simple accident, but no one could figure out why Ray left his car and disappeared. John Smith, Ray's father, received a call from the police around 2 o'clock in the morning. His heart clenched with fear. He knew what it meant: his son was missing. John quickly got into his car and set off on his way. He knew he had to be near the place of the disappearance. When John arrived at the parking lot at 5:30 a.m., he found it closed. He waited patiently until the gate opened and finally was able to enter. He saw Ray's car inside. During the search, he found his son's mobile phone wedged between the seat and the console. At 6 o'clock a.m., John went to the accident site. There he found Ray's personal belongings scattered around: a backpack, a t-shirt, socks, shorts, sneakers, and a watch. All these things were familiar to him, and he could not believe that they belonged to his son. The police found a cap and some toiletries next to the abandoned car. These little things suggested that Ray had gone into the unknown. John stood there, trying to make sense of what had happened. He prayed that Ray would come home safe and sound. Ray has always been a man who was looking for adventure. He often left home to explore new places and find inspiration. His friends said that he was the life of the company, but at the same time he hid his real feelings. Ray was a man who was afraid of being vulnerable. He grew up in a small town where everyone knew each other. His parents were always strict but loving. Ray felt that he had to meet their expectations, and it weighed on him. He dreamed of escaping from this small world and finding his place in life. Ray started his career in IT, but soon realized that this was not his calling. He wanted something more, but he didn't know what it was. He tried his hand at music, but his talent did not satisfy him. He tried to draw, but his work went unnoticed. Ray always felt like he couldn't find his true self. He often left home to find answers to his questions. He traveled to different states, but each time he came back, feeling lost. His parents did not understand his desire for freedom, but they loved him and were always ready to support him. Ray's previous love relationships were over, no one was putting pressure on anyone. The couple separated by mutual consent. But he didn't stay alone for long. One day, Ray met a girl named Lisa. She was the complete opposite of him, calm, confident, with clear goals in life. Ray immediately felt attracted to her. They started dating, and their relationship seemed perfect. Lisa supported Ray in all his endeavors and helped him find himself. But one day, Lisa decided to move to another city to continue her education. Ray couldn't let her leave, so they decided they would live together. They rented an apartment in San Marcos and began to build their lives. But, as often happens, their happiness was short-lived. Ray began to feel like he was losing himself again. His work had become a chore, and his relationship with Lisa was a source of constant tension. Eventually, they broke up, and Ray was left alone again. After breaking up with Lisa, Ray became even more withdrawn. He continued to travel, but now his trips were filled with loneliness and longing. He often thought that he might never be able to find his place in this world. But he knew he had to keep looking, no matter what. Investigation. Ray disappeared on one of those gray, rainy days when the world seemed gray and lifeless, as did his soul. When examining his shorts, a small bloodstain was found in the waist area. The investigators suggested that it could have been the result of accidental contact with the barbed wire. But no one knew how this drop of blood could be the key to solving his disappearance. A little later, Ray was officially declared missing. His parents, Mary and John, could not believe that their son had disappeared so suddenly. They spent sleepless nights watching surveillance videos, hoping to catch at least the slightest hint of his whereabouts. Mary, a frail woman with soft features, often cried, hugging her husband, who tried to hold on for the sake of the children. Ray's family wasn't the only one looking for him. Volunteers from Texas Search and Rescue and Texas EquiSearch joined forces to search a vast area of more than 30,000 acres. Every day they went to places where Ray might be, searched for tracks, rode horseback, used service dogs, helicopters, and unmanned aerial vehicles. Mary and John often joined in, hoping that their presence might give their son hope. On December 18, 2020, Ray's case was referred to the Caldwell County Sheriff's Office. In February 2022, with hopes almost extinguished, Caldwell County turned to Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton and the Unsolved Cases Division of the Attorney General's Office for help. Ken Paxton, an experienced lawyer with a stern face, promised that all forces would be thrown into the search for Ray. In July 2022, there was an unexpected turnaround. An unconscious man who looked like Ray was found in the Bronx neighborhood of New York City. He was unconscious, and his condition was critical. The doctors were fighting for his life. At the same time, DNA analysis showed that it was not Ray. Ray's family experienced mixed feelings. On the one hand, relief that this was not their son; on the other, bitterness that they still did not know where he was. In December 2023, the sheriff made a statement that the unit had devoted hundreds of hours to this case. He stressed that all available resources and all trustworthy versions were used. However, the results remained disappointing. The search for Ray continued, but every new day brought more questions and pain. The family and the volunteers did not give up, hoping that one day they would find answers and be able to reunite with Ray. In December 2023, the sheriff made a statement that the unit had devoted hundreds of hours to this case. He stressed that all available resources and all trustworthy versions were used. However, the results remained disappointing. Conclusion. The Smith family continues to fight for the truth, and their efforts do not go unnoticed. They periodically organize large-scale searches for their son. These days are filled with hope and pain, when every corner of the earth, every path, and every stone is checked for traces. But the search is only a part of their life. In their free time, they gather for face-to-face meetings where they share their experiences, support each other, and discuss new leads. These meetings become a kind of ritual for them, reminding them that they are not alone in their struggle. The Smith family's life turned into a series of endless searches and expectations. They live in constant tension, but at the same time in hope. Their house has become a place where every object reminds them of Ray, his toys, books, and clothes. They keep them with love and tenderness, hoping that one day they will be able to bring their son back. That's the sad story we have today, friends. What do you think about all this? Share it in the comments. I am very interested in your opinion. I hope, my dear friends, this story has reminded you of the need to be together, appreciate every minute around you, and always be on your guard, always taking care of your safety. Subscribe to my channel, like, and comment, because I always have the best stories. I hugged you, Olivia.